Alrighty, welcome back for people who are viewing this in the future. Got a lot of things to go over today. Really excited. First things first, I think some of you might have noticed I have a new microphone, so hopefully that'll take care of some of the audio issues we were having in previous recordings. Still some tweaking I need to do on it, but hopefully this is a good start. We're gonna re-record our Nemesis guide. I'm not so glad that I have to do it a second time, but I am a little bit because now I got character to 40, unlocked all of the final fixed keys and all that, so we can do a proper guide instead of just saying, "Trust me, bro, it's good" when you max her out. So, what else we got to cover today? We're gonna do some gambling. We're gonna level some characters and maybe do some stats adjusting on weapons and whatnot. So we got a whole ton of things we're going to do today. We're also going to talk about some of the the drama that's been going on. I don't like to talk about drama, especially when it is like a company not worthy of it. And I think the guys that make GFL2, so Mica team, they've done pretty good. They don't really deserve bad rep. They've done pretty good by the community, but they kind of made a couple missteps this week in Project NeuroCloud and even in the release schedule for GFL2, which we're going to talk about. So, but let's get started first with everyone's favorite, gambling, right? Because why not? Let me actually, before I do that, let me just super quick check. Yep, got that. Make sure you guys always grab your daily gift here. And so, the reason I'm going to do a little gambling, they announced that the next character coming out in another week. This is when this ends, in a week? Yeah, 5 days. So the next character coming out is going to be WA2000, which is it's another sniper, which for some people is great. For me, who's, like I said, planning on recording the guide tonight for Nemesis, and then also got Mosin as the, starter 5-star, it's like, okay, I'm a little overloaded on snipers, but I'm probably gonna roll anyway. So we're gonna do what we call in the business build pity, which is a terrible idea. So for people who are, if you cannot afford to miss out on a character, for example, like you're banking on like getting a character because you have just enough tickets, like, you need about 160 to guarantee a character, right? Because that would assume you lose your 50-50 at about 80, and then you lose, or you win it again at hard pity on 160. So if you cannot afford to do that, do not build pity. I've seen people do this, like, oh, I was just going to do 10 pulls just to see what I got, and they accidentally got the character, they lost their guarantee, and then they're just like, okay, the character I actually wanted, now I'm no longer guaranteed. So don't do that. But we're going to, I'm going to build a little pity because, oops, not here. For the guide, it would be pretty cool if I could get some more Nemesis segments, which is what we're going to be calling them, the fortifications now. I think that's the official term, is segments. I keep seeing people throw around different terms, but we're going with segments here until I can identify a better naming culture. So let's start. We'll do 20 on the standard banner here. There's still a lot of 4-stars and other stuff that I could use off this banner, so I finally did get a Ksenia. I just used the little $1 package that you buy in the shop, and you get like a pick of 4-stars. So now I have all the 4-stars, so that's good. So now we're just seeing if we can get some weapons, which this actually isn't bad. With the Cal Nemesis, which I'm using 2 of them right now. I'm using the 5-star version, and then this one's also in use. So, see if we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll get another... Nope, not another 5-star, but... That blinding light, man, gets me every time. Okay, so there's another Groza. Not upset about Groza at all. She is another character which I think is a little on the underrated side. She's just so versatile. I don't expect anything else besides that, yeah. I usually only ever get the guaranteed, like, 4-star in the 10 pull. So that's, you know, sad, but we are inching our way closer to the selector here, which I will probably have to use on Shangju. So far I've gotten Vepli and Tololo. And obviously Mosin came on the my initial, like, starter banner, but I don't really care about Sabrina. I'm kind of wishy-washy, and I would like Paritia, but she doesn't really fit any of the teams that I'm running right now, so that's the plan for the future. We'll see. We're gonna throw. So I already got Xiaomi. So I mean, you could go for. There's a lot of talk about whether her segment is worth it. Her first, like, duplicate. It essentially turns her into a healer as well. Really the big part of the skill that it does is that once she uses her ult, she also heals everyone by 30% of her max HP, which is good. So essentially you're getting a shielding character and a healing character in one, in addition to all the other stuff she does. So very strong segment for her. But, you know, is it better than a whole nother character? Debatable. If you really like her and you're going to use her forever and always, then yeah, you're good. It's one of those characters where it's like, okay, I got this character and I probably can put her in every team. So, but we're gonna try Ulrid here. A for the Nemesis dupes, and B because I would not mind making a guide on her. But I don't actually expect to get a 5-star here. But I said the whole point of this is to get pity. Oh, I didn't even know the weapon was on the character banner. Okay, Cheetah. Not Nemesis, but I'll let these animations play once. She's another one of the essentially, quote, free 4-star characters you get because of the, like, the pre-release, like, whatever, registration stuff, so. She's not bad. No. These could have been Nemesis. Well, third time's a charm, right? Oh my gosh. So I'm not really allowed to complain because my Sumi came, like, I think I got this character after like 10 pulls, right? I finally lucked out. Yeah, like literally 10 pulls. I finally lucked out and I got a character, like, really early, and I won the 50-50 on it, so I'm not allowed to complain, but, like, man, it is frustrating that's, like, only want some Nemesis dupes and we can't get it. We're gonna do, so that was 30. Now these banners are shared. I see this question all the time. Essentially this is the exact same gacha system that Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail uses. I don't know if ZZZ uses it, I don't play that game, but I'm gonna assume they probably use the same thing. So that means that all these are shared. This doesn't update in real time. So we had from Sumi, we had, was it 6? And then I just did 30, so we're at 36 right now. I maybe go to, we'll do maybe a little more. As you can see, I haven't really spent any of these, so I'm kind of hoarding my collapsed pieces like a dragon, sitting on my pile of treasure. Groza didn't even get a character that time. It's not going good, guys. Oh my goodness, the third one. Oh, game. Ouch. This hurts. This could have been 3 Nemesis dupes, and I could have been done. Oh. So that was 50, plus the 6 from... Let me check real quick. I want to say that the quote soft pity kicks in at 60. All right, after 58, they start increasing. So at this point, if I so this, I'm sorry, I was just thinking. At this point, if I continue to roll, there's an increasing chance that I'm actually going to get a 5-star character. Do I wanna? You know what? Let's do it. Let's roll one more time. If we get a 5-star, we'll see if it's a 50. It'll be a 50-50 chance if it's Ulrid or a different 5-star. If it is Ulrid, we celebrate. If it's not Ulrid, well then, okay, we're guaranteed for WA2000, or Wawa, as a lot of people like to call her. Nope, here we got it, so. The man's quest for Nemesis dupes leads to... Oh no! Oh no! So I like I said, oh, this is kind of cool, new weapon, but a lot of the sword. Well, okay, like I said, I'm not allowed to complain, but this is peculiar because this is the free 5-star you get from doing like the beginner quest series, and now I've gotten her twice as a duplicate. So instead of having 3 characters, 3 different 5-star characters, I got 1 character, which is I guess you'd say that's suboptimal. Well, the good news is now I'm guaranteed on the next 5-star that I get. So I think we're gonna hold off here because, you know, this is what I was saying about earlier. Like, if you can't afford it, don't do it. Because if I was to throw another 10 at Ulrid, and I accidentally got lucky, it would be a 5-star. It says I have a guarantee now, so it would be Ulrid, and that would ruin pretty much my plan for getting WA2000. So we're just not gonna do that. I'm sorry. I keep calling her WA2000. She's called Macchiato in this, spelled in a really goofy way. But I guess there's a story reason for that, so I'm not gonna rag on them too much. But that was really suboptimal, though. We didn't get a single Nemesis dupe, and that was the only reason I was really doing this. Big yikes on that. So we got a Groza. We'll fortify this. This segment essentially does nothing. 10% extra damage on her ult, and to be honest, you don't even use her ult that much. And then... Oh, I see it. It wants me to calibrate these weapons, which I will be more than happy to do. This one's starting to get pretty good. Essentially now it's just 15% extra damage, because they'll probably die. The chances of them being lower than 30% HP is pretty unlikely. Oh, this is just complaining about a new skin, which... Tempted to get the 4-star version of this sword. Kind of looks cool. Ignore this little doodad on the end. It's gonna complain that this is her. So this is her actual weapon, the model Alpha, aka Alpha. These two are close enough that it doesn't really matter. Essentially, both of them are going to give her a 10% damage buff. It's not that important which one you use. Just going to leave it for now. Yeah, this is the real pain point. I mean, these are decent segments. Yeah, these are both decent segments, 1 and 2 here. One essentially allows her single target ability, or I'm sorry, not her single target, her like cleave ability. So she can like run up, knock a bunch of people out of cover, which usually means and she also breaks the cover, right? Which usually would mean that you're exposed. But now if you're hitting multiple targets, you get an additional movement, which means you can just move again. So you can run up, knock enemies out of cover and destroy the cover, and then move to a safe spot. So that one's actually pretty good. And then this one is, if they have movement debuffs, which she applies, it gives her crit rate to this like single target ability. And this one hits really hard. This one hits for 150%. So yeah, this can chunk people. So not terrible segments. It's just, like I said, I would rather, usually in games like this, it's better to have more characters, just because you have more options when it comes to combat and team building. Unless, like, obviously you really like a character, then, you know, you can go all in on it. So that was unfortunate, because we didn't get the couple of segments that I wanted for Nemesis, which these are not really important for her kit. This one is essentially just 10% more damage, 10% more damage on her alt. This is the interesting one. It gives her alt a ton of extra. I don't know why I'm going over this. We're going to go over this in the Nemesis guide, so. But it would have been cool to get some of those. What else? We got to grab. That was my 300th ticket that I use. Okay, so yep, got that. Let's go ahead. I'm going to use up. So we have an event going on right now for bonus rewards. The most quote efficient one to use it on is weapon upgrades here for targeted study, because essentially you're doubling a 30 intel expenditure. The downside is that right now most people are probably not high enough to be doing the max ranks, so including myself. So the chances of you actually getting a like max quality or a gold /orange attachment is pretty low. So it's like, you know, it's debatable how efficient that is. But I guess you could say the same about all this stuff, right? Like, you know, down here, if you were doing this, you'd be getting a lot more than the current level. So we're gonna dump. I've been working on getting some of these neural helixes finished, and these last couple, got enough for that one. These last two take a boatload. I think this one is 120 per character, and I need to do at least 2 characters, so let's dump that. Yeah, I still need another 30. Let's do one more. Follow my own advice. Okay, so this is enough for 2 characters worth if I can just find one somewhere. So we're good on that. I already did the PvP for the day. So we're good on daily reset stuff. I think we're gonna get into... I'm just checking. That is my one complaint, is that they always spread all the the stuff you need to do in a day. They always spread it out across like 10 different menus. Yep, this is just the... what am I looking for? Events. Here we go. Oh, sorry, not this. That's the notices board. The events board. This is friends list. Jesus, I'll get it right one of these times. Surely it's the last one. This is what I was looking for. Another event that's going on right now. A lot of this is just like, a lot of this is just log in, do stuff. So we're gonna claim. As long as you play the game, essentially, that's what all these get. You get these little map things here, and then you use them to like uncover the little board here and get more stuff. So we're gonna do this. Sorry, I didn't see your question, Mr. Alyssum here. The girl outside the helicopter is Mei Ling. She is like your hired assistant. She is your technician that works on your mobile base. She's also an alcoholic. Oops, not here. This is Mei Ling. She, like I said, she drinks a lot, and for good reason. If you were in an irradiated blast zone 90% of the time, you'd be suffering from a little bit of stress, so. I don't really know if they ever went into her, like, actual backstory. The game kind of just starts, and she's just kind of there, and it's just, like, assumed that you, the commander, like, just kind of, like, found her aimlessly drifting through the life, and I guess you offer her a job to work on this military vehicle that you kind of abducted from your previous job. Like, they're not super clear. They're just like, whatever. We need an assistant, and like she's the assistant character. So, that's literally her whole story in a nutshell. She fixes the Jeep and fixes the cyborg ladies. Okay, we did all that. We hit event voyage. All right. Did all the limited time stuff. I feel like we need to just go to fitting room here. I got a couple units I need to, let's do calibrate on this. We're gonna level a couple units up here for neurohelixes, and then we'll get started on, I guess we'll talk about, so while I'm doing this, I'm gonna talk about the drama. So a couple things happened in the last couple days for those of you who didn't catch it. So obviously GFL just came out, and their other game, one of their other games, Project Neural Cloud, had a big patch was ending previously. It was some major event, and immediately after that event ended, they had a new event that they decided to like run back to back, which was, you know, pretty unusual. But for whatever reason, they decided, hey, let's have major events back to back. Surely that won't burn people out. But obviously, GFL2 is like the prime focus of the company right now because it just got released on global. And what happened was they released this second major event in Project Neural Cloud. And as far as anybody can tell, they just like forgot to assign translators to it. And essentially the event was put live on the servers and the translation was just absolutely abysmal. You log in, it like the second you go to the event, it hits you with like a cutscene, right? There were spelling errors, there were nonsensical words. Essentially the whole thing, I'll just like cut the story short. Essentially the whole thing was just machine translated, and like very poorly too, like not even like high quality machine translation. Like, like I actually think if you would have used Google Translate, you probably would have got a better translation. But it was abysmal, like so horrible. Like I said, characters referring to themselves as the wrong gender, right? Like female characters saying, you know, like the story, the narrator referring to him and his. Characters, the same character's name being spelled wrong like 5 to 6 different times in the same cutscene. Like for example, there's a character called DeLacy, and her name was spelled as DeLaser, Delacy, Delasa, like all sorts of weird misspellings. Like they couldn't even. It was just horrible. It was absolutely abysmal, and everyone in the Discord and online was like, "What's going on here?" Like. What is this? Which is weird because normally they're really good about their translations. Like Project Neural Cloud usually has some of the best translations like out there. Like very very well done translations for English, from Chinese to English. Another weird part was that apparently the Japanese version of the translation of the event was fine. So the Japanese players were like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is a fine translation, makes sense. And like all the English players are like, what is this nonsensical, word salad that essentially was put out as a major event? And they're trying to get an answer from the admins, and nobody's responding. Eventually they did respond. Took them about a day, and they put out like a little, oh, we're sorry that, we essentially put out like an unpolished product. I forgot their exact wording, but it was like that's fine. They finally did like it, and of course they gave some apology sand in that game. It's called quartz and quartz dust, or like their version of collapse pieces. But anyway, they gave some apology gems, and they're just like, hey, sorry, we'll do better next time. And they gave a list of like what they're going to do to fix it, which is like, yeah, you believe it, you believe it. If you don't believe it, whatever. But the it kind of like raises like a bigger issue of like, essentially the translation was so bad, there's no way you could have, anybody who speaks like English like fluently could have like done like a quick pass over that text and been like, oh yeah, this is good. Like these weren't like small like, oh, this should have been a period or a comma, like not stuff like that. Like these are like major mistakes. It's like, so literally what happened, well, as far as I can tell, what happened was they just took the raw text, fed it into a machine to translate it, and then immediately just shoved that translation into the game. Like nobody even proofread it even slightly to like make sure that it came out like in any sensical way. And that's obviously not good, but it's not good for a couple reasons, because they essentially, the weird thing is that this is self-inflicted, right? Like they didn't need to run 2 back-to-back major events. And in addition to them running 2 back-to-back major events, there's like a bunch of little side events going on too, going on in the game. And it's like, so they crammed a whole ton of stuff into this patch, kind of for no reason. And it's like I said, so it's like a self-inflicted injury. And like nobody can really figure out why they did this, right? And we're gonna get into the conspiracy theory stuff here in a minute. So they shove this event out, and it's like, okay, and they they have like a new limited character which they're trying to cash in on, and like, so anyway, the whole Project Neuro crowd Discord is just like in shambles right now, and all the players are like, oh yeah, this is the end of the game, dude. End of service is the next announcement. Like they don't care about us anymore, which that's not really a good look you want to have for your company. Like, I'm just also I'm gonna sit here and talk while I wait for the dailies to reset, because they're gonna reset here in a minute or two. So let me just grab these, and I'll continue with the story. Yep, just double checking to make sure I got everything. Yeah, so they essentially messed up the translation, and people are upset about it. But the other half of it is like, okay, so they shove a lot of content out. So it's like, it seems like they're trying to like get a lot out as soon as possible, which is kind of weird, because it's like they're self-competing, right? GFL2 just came out here, and it's like, and now you're trying to like grab people's, like, for example, people who play both games, which assumedly would be like your players, right? If you're playing Project Neuro Cloud, there's a very high chance you're playing GFL2. So it's like weird that they're like taking their own player base and kind of like tugging them in 2 directions. Then it gets weird, because then I started looking at the announcements for GFL2 here, right? And so like I had mentioned earlier, the next character to come out is Macchiato, and weird, right? Because it's like you get a sniper unit, Nemesis, for just playing the game, right? She's the first character. So it's like, I understand that Macchiato, or WA2000, is a very popular character. Kind of weird to have a sniper right off the bat, because usually you want kind of like some of the other roles to be filled, because essentially there's 2 serviceable snipers in the game right now, Mosin and Nemesis. So it's a little weird to pick her, but it's not weird if you were paying attention to the Chinese 1-year anniversary live stream, because they showed off a bunch of things. They showed off one of the characters, Springfield, another really popular character who was also a sniper, but she's more of a support. She's not really a damage dealer. And in that, they also previewed like the upcoming improvements to the. Once I can grab this, got this. Once there's like going to be like a different version of the public area, instead of just watching Mei Ling flip through a book here, you're going to be able to like explore the mobile base, the Elmo. And they also previewed like some of the character interactions, and she was in one of them, right? She was like watching a scary movie on the couch. And like I said, I'm sure you've seen it, the little clip of it on Twitter, or in the Discord. So she's watching a scary movie and she gets scared and she pulls you over, right, to watch the movie with her. So like it's kind of like they're almost like just in that little clip of the segment, like kind of exploded, right? Like millions of views on Twitter, which is unusual for the game. Like usually it doesn't get that much traction. So like everybody has seen this clip and everyone's like, oh my God, you know, so interesting. So I almost feel like they're writing that hype. Like, oh wow, look at everyone saw this character. Even like people who don't play the game, they might have saw the character and they're like, oh, looks like an interesting game. What is it? And so like maybe they wanted to push her out to kind of cash in on that hype. And then in addition to that, they also just recently announced, let's see if I can scroll up here, like previewed a bunch of other stuff. There's like one of the skins for Tololo, which is a summer swimsuit skin, which makes absolutely no sense for December, but you know, I guess she's out, so it's like maybe they just want to push out the costume. Long story short, the conspiracy theory here is like, I can't help but think that they're pushing all this content out really fast to try and cash in before the end of the year for whatever reason. Either they're trying to make numbers look good for the year, or like I said, I really don't know, but it's like all signs point to like they're really trying to get a lot of upfront revenue. It's everyone knows that the Mica company or Mica team is like they're not Hoyoverse, right? They don't have just tons of money flowing in. Like GFL2, when it released in China, like did decent, but it like didn't like shatter records, right? Like they're not pulling in 30 million whatever like Honkai Star Rail does. So it's like they're still kind of a niche company, and like they put all their eggs in one basket on this game, which is why I think they pulled all the translators off of Project NeuroCloud to work on this. And by doing that, it's like it's to me it's pretty clear that they're, I don't know if struggling is the right term to use, but it definitely seems like they're either trying to, they said, make a lot of money up front, either for the end of the year books for whatever investors or whoever. Maybe they got some loans they got to pay out pretty quick here. Like, you know, that's the conspiracy theory for me, is that, like I said, they're trying to not cook the books, but they're trying to make themselves look good at the end of the year, and then they'll go back to more of a steady and normal release schedule. I don't have any proof to back that up, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. I hope they do good, right? Like I hope the English release and the JP release and the Korean release of GFL2 here is just gonna like shatter records. I mean, it probably won't shatter records, but I hope they're really successful when the numbers come out for the month. And you know, I hope they'll throw a big pizza party for all the employees. But it does make me a little worried, right? Like it makes me a little worried because it's like if they're in tough financial situation where they're trying to like, I don't want to say milk their player base, but like they're trying to really get as much money up front from their player base, like that makes me nervous, right? Because they've gone through a couple other periods where they weren't doing great, right? Doing great financially, so, but they always seem to manage to come back from it. It's just, yeah, so I just hope that nothing bad happens, because like I said, the developers who make the game are very passionate. You can tell. Anytime you like, anytime I've seen them like do their live streams or like preview content, like even in the Chinese streams where they just, you know, they have someone like one of the you know, the community members essentially translates for them. The developers seem like they really care about what they do. And they really like seem to, oh my gosh, look at this guy. Calm down, bro. Calm down. Level 53? Jesus Christ. How hard did you wail? 41,000. For reference, I think my team is 20,000. If I was to like put all my units in. Anyway, back to the topic. Like I said, I know there's passionate people that work there for them. Oh, one more little thing to add to this whole little storm of drama. Another thing that's in the rumor mill is that I had talked about this previously. They, on the Chinese servers, they had changed the standard banner system so that when you hit pity on a standard banner, you could kind of select what character you want instead of just like, okay, whatever, it's, I think it's like whatever at 60 or 80 whatever pity, and when you get one of your 5 stars, instead of just getting a random character or weapon from the 5-star pool, like you get to pick, right? Which when people first started throwing that around the Discord, like, oh yeah, that's exactly what you should do, I'm like, that's stupid, because you have no idea how long that's going to take to before that comes to our servers, right? Like it could be 6 months, it could be a year, like you have no idea. Well, the rumor mill is that it's going to be really soon, like February soon, so like 2 months. And I don't think that was intentional. Although what happened, from what I can gather, is that one of the players on the Korean server, because this is the same game client, or at least a pretty up-to-date game client, and you can kind of verify that if you go to, oh my gosh, I unlocked this. We'll have to get into this a different day. If you go to the server room, I want to say it's not server room. It's, hey, maybe the server room. Traceback, classified briefings. No, not this one. Not this one. Third time's the charm. Yeah, this. You can actually see all the character stories for events that aren't even out yet. Like, let's in fact, I'm sure the Macchiato event is probably in here, and they're all translated, which is weird because, like I said, a lot of this stuff is not out yet. Let's just pick one at random. We'll see if we bump into a character that is not in the game yet. His KSVK was in, I guess she kind of, not a good example. She's kind of in the game because she was in the most recent event. Hurdles Levane, I'm assuming this is G36. Centronici? Maybe? This is Perugia. Nope. Okay, well, whatever. I'm actually gonna skip to this. Yeah, whatever. The point is there's all the stories from all the different like character events that are like not even out yet. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, because this is the whole point of that was that because this is an up-to-date client, and essentially they've just translated one of the more recent clients for the game. Apparently one of the Korean players found out that if you went in the game files and like just deleted some like random file that talks about I don't even know what the file was. It was just essentially it was a file that just said disable this feature, right? The character selector from the standard banner here, right? There's like a little character selector that should be here that when you hit you can like change it. Apparently he just deleted that file. It enabled it, and I don't know if he was actually able to utilize it, like to cash in on a character, or if he was just able to like enable it for future stuff. Whatever. The point is that he was able to do that, and like obviously I think they put either a suspension on that guy's account or whatever. I don't know what but the point is that the cat's out of the bag, right? Like the system's in the game, and as kind of like a oopsies, we made a mistake, they're just like, oh well, we're gonna patch it out so that you can't use it, right? Which they did, so it's disabled, so even if you did what this guy did, you can't actually now get to it. And they're just like, well, okay, whatever. I guess I want to say it was like one of the community devs or something for the Korean servers. They essentially said, yeah, well, whatever. We're gonna try and rush this feature because we know people have been looking forward to it, and so like hopefully by February we're gonna have it. So, I got to eat my own words on that because I said that feature was probably not coming for a very long time, and I was incorrect. It will be here supposedly. If you trust these rumors, much quicker than anticipated. So another little spicy nugget of drama. Yeah, we need to get a couple of... We'll do a couple more of these. So yeah, the game's release has been going good so far, but there's definitely been, as usual, some hiccups. This is not... Oh, it's like just a shotgun muzzle. Never mind. Don't care. Yeah, so it's like... Yeah, you know, it might be in the future. It probably will be, because usually, you know, the global servers... I say global, you know, the English-speaking server is supposed to be the global one, but, you know, JP and Korea are also kind of like on the exact same update schedule, even in other games like Project NeuroCloud. I think they're on an almost identical schedule. So if the Korean servers are getting this selector thing in February, we're probably going to get it too. So that's your little heads up and your warning. If you have a bunch of standard tickets, don't do what I did at the beginning of the stream and spend them on something. You can save them, and like then essentially you can like guarantee yourself one of the characters or something. But once again, I don't really buy into that personally, because especially when you're starting and your account is like new, you want to have like characters, and you want to have weapons on your account. You don't want to go bare bones for you know 3 or 4 months. So okay, so we did all that. Let's do that. We talked about the drama. The drama's out of the way. I hope everything goes good for them. I hope all the guys at Mica team and girls have a nice Christmas and they take some time off and relax. I have a feeling they probably won't, because they're in super panic mode right now, from what I can tell. But you know, hopefully everything works out well. Like I said, hopefully they're just shattering revenue records internally, and they're all just, like I said, gonna have a great big pizza party at the end. Okay, so we did that. Let me do a couple more things. I know I'm not being very efficient. There's an ongoing joke that I can't play games and talk, which is a terrible thing for someone who's trying to stream, but they're not completely inaccurate. Get all these annoying notifications out of the way. Alright, so I think we got the Neurohelix for her. Did I actually equip both of the keys? I know I equipped the common key. This is a really powerful common key for her, by the way. The 5% defense boost is pretty big. It's kind of iffy that it only happens once per battle, but because she's constantly shielding, you probably only ever need it to happen once per battle, because you're probably only going to get chunked one time. So one of these need to come out. That's good. That's good. This is okay. So the new key that we got is essentially she's going to heal 10% of her max HP every turn and get a stability. Assuming that she has more than 0 stability. So this is kind of like a win more. And then the other one here is essentially when she gets crowd controlled, you cleanse it immediately, get a shield, But that can only happen once per battle. This is okay if you have like a very specific use case scenario, but a lot of time you're going to get hit with like a taunt from something stupid. It's going to auto cleanse and use up your one use of it for the battle, and then the boss is going to like whatever stun you or something. And you're going to be like, well, I wish that I still had that active. So this one is like you kind of have to plan the battle around it, like when you're going to activate this. Otherwise, this is really good, right? Like being able to immediately get rid of a crowd control effect is very powerful. So, but we're gonna use this one because this one is pretty good, because like her constantly healing is pretty strong, because you want to keep her above 80% HP for her one of her passives. Let's do this one. Get rid of this one. This one's not bad. It's just that you have to be the one to break, and that can be kind of hard to like line up, as opposed to this one that's just always active. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. Who else? I needed 2 Lunar Helix for Tolo here. Nope, don't have enough, that's right. Did we need to switch this weapon? I don't think we did. So, like I said, essentially, these are the same thing. When receiving a buff, you increase damage out by 10%. Well, she is going to buff herself because Tololo's ability... Which one is it? Yeah, each time an ally unit deals hydro damage, which I actually haven't tested to see if that includes herself. I'm assuming it does. She's going to get a buff. If not, like whatever, you can just pair with Colfane, and she's going to be constantly getting this Light Spike buff. In addition to that, there's one other one that I think she can auto... Oh, wait, I think it's the weapon itself. Yeah, okay. So if you're at full HP, you're going to give yourself a buff, which then will activate this. So the difference between that 10% and this 10% is... This one's actually worse, because this only is active while you're... you get your extra turn, and she only gets an extra turn right now with like 1 out of every 3 actions. I want to say it's 3 actions if you like line up all her skills correctly. So this one actually is just a better overall weapon, even if this one has a teeny tiny bit more base attack. So yeah. This is just a good all-round weapon. So we're actually going to bring this up to level 40. Use some of my things here. We're going to throw some attachments on this. I think I have some decent ones. Crit damage, crit rate, attack boost, and health. Let's try this guy. Essentially, these are both really good attachments. The difference is like, do I want one with defense or I want one with health boost? And for her, I think health boost, actually. So we're going to put that on there. Let's calibrate it one time. Calibrating it once will give you a whole bunch of stats, hopefully, all into crit. Not quite, but not terrible either. That'll be good. And then for the other attachments, let's see what we got. So she's probably going to want to use Phase Strike, because that's kind of just like an all-around good set for almost everybody. Do I have a Phase Strike with crit and attack boost? Double attack, that's not bad. That's the wrong set. Oh, here we go. Attack and crit rate. Not the greatest rolls, but it will work. Ew. Ew. Horrible. 10%. All right, well, we're going to actually reroll. Ugh, this is going to hurt. We'll do one reroll on that, because that was just... That was rough. Okay, there we go. I don't like that attack went down. I would have rather defense went down, but... Okay, well, we have a decent amount of crit now, so that's fine. We'll keep that. Let's see. We need Phase Strike Please strike with... Oh, here we go. Already locked it. Attack, crit. This one's really good. Double attack and crit. There's literally not a useless stat on this. And that was kind of a weak roll. We'll do one more because that was such a poor roll. There we go. Whoa, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that attack boost. Yikes. Hell yeah. That is what I'm talking about. And then for this, finish off the phase strike set bonus, and let's see if we can get another one with crit and attack. That one's not bad. Is that the only one I got? Yep, okay. That's the only one I got, so we're putting a flashlight on it. Yep, those are decent. We'll keep that. Okay, well, we got most of the stuff we needed to do today, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to record the Nemesis video next. We talked about all the juicy drama. Go away, Windows. Come on, I'm trying to stream here, making it look unprofessional. So yeah, we're gonna... Yep, I've done all the stuff. I don't have anything to do in the limited time event here. Actually, I lied. I need to... That one's pretty much done. I just need to do the first part 1 on hard mode. We'll just farm for the day by hitting this wonderful auto battle button 3 times. And we're going to steal all of Ulrid's gifts for somebody else. What'd you get? Succulent plant pot. Cactuses, huh? Interesting that a Swedish looking doll likes cactuses. You'd think she'd want something like a snow globe. Okay, so yeah, I think the next thing we're going to do is the Nemesis guide. We're going to re-record that for like the 3rd time. But before we do that, I think we're going to take a break. I'm going to finish up my delicious hot chocolate here, which is about 30% whipped cream. I think I'm going to finish that, and we're going to we're going to take a quick break for about a couple minutes, and then we'll record the Nemesis guide after that. So I'm going to go to the... We will be right back, and that's exactly what will happen. We will be right back. Okay, I think we're gonna get back into it here. So I noticed the audio was peaking a little bit during the last part. I'm gonna hope that's gone away. I'm gonna make a change real quick. Sorry about muting the sound here. We're gonna check to see if the hopefully I can change this audio setting real quick, and it will not affect the upcoming recording, because that would be real sad. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be good. Let's get back in the game here. And we'll go back to a live scene. Alrighty, so we're going to re-record the Nemesis video. Okay, so we're going to do an in-depth guide on Nemesis here. So the way I think I'm going to format this is... this is probably going to be a long video. I'm going to go really in depth on the character, all her stuff, and then at the end of the video, I think I'm going to do a quick summary, or not a summary, but like the short version of the guide. So if you're watching this later on in the future, I'm going to put a timestamp down in the video, and that'll just skip you to the short version of this guide, where it's pretty much we're going to go over the real quick how to use her and like get pretty good results. And if you want to know the nitty-gritty details, stick around. We're going to go over that right now. So Nemesis is like, she's an amazing free-to-play unit. She's very underrated, and she can be just an absolute DPS powerhouse if you build her correctly and you actually utilize her correctly. People, I think, are really sleeping on her. She is, I think, by far the best free-to-play unit out of the Grows team. So we're gonna start. First, we're gonna go over her abilities and how they work, and like, you know, kind of how they synergize with each other. Then we'll talk about her fortifications, her segments here. We'll talk about all these and go over that and kind of how they affect her different abilities. Then we'll talk about her Neurohelix, her fixed keys, like which ones you should use. We'll talk about the weapon. There's only a couple sniper rifles in the game currently, but we'll go over them real quick in their trait, and then I'm gonna do an example. We're gonna do a quick like in-game example of how to use her. So, and then like I said, we'll do the quick version of the guide at the end. So let's start by going over her skills. So first of all, she's a sentinel character, which means she's essentially a damage dealer. She kind of, obviously for a sniper type character, you want to post her up in a spot where she can hit multiple enemies, either high ground or just like a spot that has good vision of the field, and she's just gonna dump damage on people. And the way she does that is with her abilities here, specifically her passive. So we're gonna start with her passive, because this is kind of like the main part of her kit. So how her passive works is at the beginning of every turn, she marks the 2 closest enemies with Prophecy of Morning. At base, it's 1 turn. The reason it says 2 turns here is because I have one of her segments. But initially, it's 1 turn. What happens is when one of your teammates attacks those targets with a single target ability, AoE abilities do not count. But if they attack her with just a basic attack or any of their skills that target one enemy, she will do a follow-up attack or a support attack. When she does that follow-up attack, she's going to get a buff here called Insight, which initially all this buff does is increase the range on her ult. But as we get into the rest of her kit, you'll see that it does a lot of other things. But essentially what this is allowing her to do is to make 2 free attacks a turn, if there's enough enemies, 2 free attacks a turn at 80% damage. The other thing that it doesn't clearly say in the passive here, but if you go to, I think it's under Prophecy of Morning. Yes, under Prophecy of Morning, when she does this follow-up attack, she is going to gain 2 Confectance Index, which are the abilities used to fuel, the little points that they use to fuel a character's like alts or skills. So that's the important thing. So essentially, she's going to put out 2 marks a turn, and if you have your allies attack those marks with single target abilities, she'll do follow-up attacks on them, assuming she has line of sight. She will put the mark on the target, even if she does not have line of sight, but she does actually need line of sight to actually shoot the target. So no 360, no scoping people through walls. So we'll go to her first ability is exactly what it sounds like, just basic attack. Everyone's is the same. Her second ability here, Enlightened Star, is the other ability you're probably going to use. You're probably going to use her alt the most, and this is going to be the ability you use the second most often. Essentially what this ability says is when you move up into cover, or you're standing next to cover, you'll do an attack on your target, and you'll get 2 points of confectance. The main purpose of this skill is to generate confectance for her. If you're in cover, you also get a damage bonus. The caveat to this is that it's not really a caveat. It's you don't actually need to have cover from the enemy you're shooting. That makes sense. So the piece of cover doesn't need to be between you and the enemy. So if you walk up on a piece of cover and shoot someone behind you, you'll still get this 2 points of confectance and this extra damage increase from the skill here. So essentially, you're pretty much going to open all their battles by doing this. You're going to walk up into cover, use Enlightened Star here. That'll get her pretty much to max confectance, and then the rest of the battle is pretty much going to be alt spamming, as we're going to go over here in a second. This has a 2-turn cooldown. It's not that big a deal. Her second skill here, Penetrating Casket, is kind of like your backup ability. What this does is it picks a target, puts defense down on them for 1 turn, and then does, a 130% attack to them. If they already have a defense debuff from another person or from herself, as we'll get into later, she'll get a point of confectance. You don't really need to use this ability at all. And the reason I say that is because when we go over her Neural Helix, she has other ways to apply defense down to the target. And defense down doesn't stack with itself. So if they have defense down from the Neural Helix, you don't get to stack a second defense down from Penetrating Casket on them. This essentially just acts as like a stopgap of like, well, I don't have my alt, and for some reason, Enlightened Star is on cooldown because I just used it. So whatever, here's like another ability. But you won't be using this much because, like I said, you're going to mostly be using Stellar Pursuit, her alt. Now, her alt is very straightforward. It costs 3 confectance points, and it just does a boatload of damage. It's corrosive damage. So once again, it'll trigger both heavy and corrosive phase weaknesses. We'll get into phase weaknesses later, but phase weaknesses essentially gives you more damage if you match the target. And then, yeah, for every extra point of confectance, you can hold up to 6 total. So you use this ability if you have 3 left over. So if you use this ability at max confectance at 6, you will have 3 left over, which means this actually goes up to 200% attack. The reason you're going to be able to spam this is because it costs 3 confectance, right? But if you remember from her passive, these Prophecy of Warnings, whenever you trigger one of them, she's going to get 2 confectance back. So essentially, she's going to be generating confectance from doing her follow-up attacks, and she's going to be dumping it with Stellar Pursuit here. Those are her abilities in a nutshell. So, like I said, essentially, she's going to walk up into cover, open up with Enlightened Star, and then every turn she's going to start putting her passive Prophecy of Warning on people. You're going to use your teammates to trigger that, which gives her a bunch of buffs, as we're going to talk about. And then you're just, to be honest, you're just going to be spamming her alt a lot. So we will talk about her fortifications, or segments, as they're called. We'll talk about those really quick. I don't have all of them, but the only one that really changes anything about the way she plays is her first one, and technically her 6th one. Her first one here, it makes Prophecy of Warning last for 2 turns instead of 1. The reason this is big is because if for some reason, like I said, it can apply to people who are out of line of sight. If she can't actually get in line of sight to attack that target, it's not, quote, wasted. It'll still be there for another turn after this, and essentially she can have 4 of these. Let's say there's a field full of enemies. She could have 4 Prophecy of Warnings floating around in the field, which is a lot of follow-up attacks and a lot of confectance. So this is the only one that really modifies how she plays. This Enlightened Star just, hey, if the target has Prophecy of Warning, does 10% extra damage. This one, another confectance point. Or, I'm sorry, this is, by default, this skill does not have this last sentence here. I really don't like how this is like, It's handy that it's written in the ability here, but it's confusing when you're trying to show people. Basically, it doesn't have this, and that's what's giving you this part here. But once again, you don't really use Penetrating Casket a ton. Remote Observation, if you're under Insight, which is the buff you give yourself when you do a follow-up attack, you're going to do extra damage. Once again, doesn't really change the way she plays, just extra damage. Same thing here, Solid Pursuit, more damage. Her sixth one doesn't really change the way she plays. Once again, it is just a damage boost, but it's an interesting one. It's every debuff on the target, which, remember, as we'll talk about in a second, she will apply a debuff. So essentially, she's going to have a ton of crit rate, and it will not be unusual for her to have 100% crit rate when attacking with her ult here. So that's her segments. They don't. The only one that changes the way she plays is the first one here. So don't feel bad if you don't have them. Essentially, they're just like little crumbs of damage increase. So let's talk about our Neuro Helix. The Neuro Helix for everybody is very similar. Just this main line here is all just stats, which you do want to unlock for her because a lot of them have attack boost in them, as you will see. In fact, every single one has attack boost and a different stat. And attack is one of the primary stats you're going to be building on her. But when you get to these certain parts in the Neural Helix, you will unlock these fixed keys. Now, the fixed keys, there's a bunch of them. You can equip 3 on the left here, which are these ones here, these fixed keys. And then the right 3 are common keys. These can be used by any character. They don't really change your abilities. Usually, that's a bad example. That one does change your ability. Usually, they're just stat boosts here, like crit and attack, crit and attack. This is her final one, which we'll get to. But you can only equip 3 of these 6 here. So which ones do you pick? Well, we'll talk about it real quick. The first one here, this is probably the one that's going to be auto-include all the time. Potent Curse is a powerful fixed key. This is the one where if you attack a target that has her Prophecy of Morning, so the turn starts, she puts Prophecy of Morning out. If she attacks one of those targets before, like, let's say an ally attacks it, she's going to apply defense down 2. This is important for bosses because in bosses, there's only going to be one enemy on the field. So you're going to trigger her follow-up attack. By attacking with Nemesis first, you will apply defense down 2 to the boss. And then when your allies go, they will then trigger the Prophecy of Morning follow-up attack afterwards. In addition, once again, it also counts as a debuff. So with her last segment here, once again, you're getting a free 20% crit. So now I want to make a comment about this. Reduces defense by 30%. Please, 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 please do not confuse this for a 30% damage boost. The way the damage formula works, the short version of it is that this is actually going to equate to about an 8%. In like real use case scenarios, this will equate to about an 8% damage increase on the target. It is not a 30% damage increase on the target. So don't get that confused. The reason that it's nothing to ignore is because it's not just you who's getting that 30%. Like Nemesis isn't only just getting that 8% damage increase for herself. All your teammates that are attacking that target are also essentially getting an 8% damage increase. We can go over the math. I might do a different video on how the damage formula works, but like I said, the short answer is in, theoretical situations, you'll get a 10% increase in damage, but in real like use case scenarios, you'll probably get like an 8% and sometimes even a little less than that. This doesn't convert into 30% damage. Do not confuse that. So don't feel bad, for example, if you don't get to apply this to the boss. It's strong, especially if you're working with another teammate that has like a DPS kit, but it's not the end of the world if you don't apply it. Mostly you're doing it for the debuff. And as we'll talk about, it's just kind of a natural part of the way she works versus bosses. So the next fixed key here is Changing Fortune. This one is okay, especially in the early game. Essentially, by default, Insight only affects your ult. It gives your ult one more tile of range, so now you can shoot your ult 10 instead of 9. This key allows it to work on her abilities in Lightning Star and Penetrating Casket. It's not bad. But to be honest, you're going to be spamming her alt a lot anyway. So this is not needed. It's nice to have, but it's not needed. So it's great if you have nothing better to put, especially if you're not max level yet. This one is pretty wishy-washy. If you're under the effects of Insight, so that means you've done a follow-up attack this turn, you're going to get 20% less AoE damage. Nemesis, one of her biggest strengths is that she outranges almost every enemy in the game with a 10-tile range, with the exception of bosses that have like an attack that just targets the furthest enemy. She's going to outrange like everything else. So she's already relatively in a safe spot. 20% AoE damage is not that big a deal. She's probably never going to take damage or take very little to begin with, so she's never going to be in a dangerous like position of dying from this, so it's not needed. This one is very good too. Silent Catastrophe. So when you kill a target that's marked with Prophecy of Morning, which you will, you get attack up and damage up for a turn. Once again, want to point out, attack up is not a 10% damage increase. This is a 10% attack increase, which does not equate to a 10% damage increase, but you do get both, right? This one is a 10% damage increase, and this is a multiplier that gets added on separately. So this is just a straight 10% damage increase, and this one is less than that, but and this one varies a lot with how much attack you actually have on the character. But these are both really good because she's going to be, you're in an ideal situation, you want to use your supports to be attacking these like kind of like weaker enemies on the side, you know, bosses that summon ads or just lots of small enemies that are trying to swarm you. Use like supports to attack them, and that triggers the Prophecy of Morning follow-up attack, and she will likely get a kill, which just means free damage. Next key, Fated Calamity. When they are another key that revolves around Prophecy of Morning, you'll see this is kind of a theme with her kit. If you kill the target that's affected with Prophecy of Morning, you get a Confectance point. This one is another one you're probably going to use most of the time. And like I said, I'll show you a quick loadout towards the end of the video. This is another key that's used to just fuel like the non-stop alts. This is another very situational key. If there's a boss, like I think right now there's only Ironside that displaces you. This is as if you've done a follow. The problem with all these keys is that they're contingent on you having Insight up, which is fine because you probably will have it up all the time, but it's not guaranteed. And like, let's say you miss, you position wrong. And you don't get a follow-up attack that turn for whatever reason, you're going to lose this buff, which is big sad. But yeah, mostly, once again, she's going to outrange most enemies. She's not going to really be worried about displacement effects from like grenades or knockbacks. Like a lot of the displacement effects are short range, with the exception of like Ironside, who just hits the whole map. And her final key here this is a common key, so this one would go on the right side here. This key is 3% attack boost, but mostly it's rather interesting. When she's under the effects of Insight, which once again is from her follow-up attack, she gets to move 3 tiles after she kills somebody. But the caveat to this is that it's only on her action. So the order this needs to happen is you need to, at the beginning of the turn, 2 prophecy marks will go out. You have to trigger one of the prophecy marks with a teammate. Now she has the Insight buff. Now on her turn, if she kills a unit, she then gets to move another time. So it's a little restrictive, but it is very, very good for her because one of her biggest, in fact, her biggest weakness is that she just has horrible movement speed. Lowest in the game, I believe. 4 movements, 4 tiles. So she is incredibly painful and it can be very punishing on you as a player if you do not position her correctly, or you have a mission that needs to evacuate your units. Running her across the map to the evacuation point is a slog, but this key really helps with that. And like I said, she's going to be scoring kills relatively easily because as we'll take her for a test drive, you'll see like if you build her correctly and you get a lot of stats, she's going to be pumping out damage. So it will not be uncommon to be able to move out 4 squares into a relatively dangerous position, but since you know you're going to kill your target, you're going to get another 3 after that. So then you can like kind of leapfrog yourself into cover. So the kind of like the general all-round loadout, I would say for fixed keys are Potent Curse, flying the defense down, really good. Followed by Fated Calamity, which means when you kill a target, you're going to get a Convectance point. So once again, more alts. And when you kill a target, you're also going to get attack up and damage up. So these 3, they all revolve around attacking something with Prophecy of Morning, which she's going to want to do. And they just get 3 essentially damage boosts from it. This one will apply a defense down, this one will apply 2 self buffs, and this one will refund the energy, quote, to use your alt. So you can said, if you have a specific use case, if the boss is like a displacement boss, maybe later on there's a boss that you need to like lock in position, you don't want to get like shoved around the map, then you can swap one of these out, like for this, or reduce damage. But these 3 keys, Fated Calamity, Silent Catastrophe, and Potent Curse, are probably going to be used 90% of the time. So okay, so that covers her skills, that covers her segments and her helix. We have to talk about her weapon now. Not much to talk about here. I have the one from the battle pass here. You don't necessarily need it. We can look at the normal like 4-star version of her weapon, which you get for free just by doing like the beginner's introduction campaign thing. This is actually not a bad weapon. The calibration on it, or the like passive, is pretty solid. It starts way higher. I think at calibration rank 1, it's if the target has 90%, then it's an extra 10% damage. But as you calibrate it, you can see this gets very powerful, because at this point, it's essentially just a free 15% damage. Now, the one thing I want to talk about these sniper rifles, and in addition to that, the Mosin Nagant, which I do not have. I do have one. It's just got a goofy skin on it. This doesn't really. She can utilize this, but it's not as good as just a passive 15%. Oops, this one passive 15%. This one's a little too restrictive. It is and it isn't. We'll get into that later when we talk about the gearing section. The one thing I do want to talk about is this trait, though. Both the sniper, I say all sniper rifles, both the sniper rifles in the game currently, I need to double check to see if the future unit that's coming out in a couple days here, Macchiato or WA2000, I need to double check if this is the same trait on her rifle as well. But both the Mosin Nagant and the Nemesis 50 cal here have this trait where you ignore 1 point of stability by default, and then if you're under the effects of insight, you will ignore another point of stability. This does not mean you do extra stability damage. It just counts as if the target had that much less stability when it's calculating to see if it's going to get its damage reduction from stability. And I'll give you an example of this in game here in a moment. But yeah, so either one of these rifles is fine. The Nemesis 50 cal is a little more tailored to her, and it's a little more universal because it doesn't have the weird requirement of having a phase debuff on the target. So let's talk about attachments real quick. This is where the guide gets a little messy. So the stats you want to get are the typical trifecta and the basic stats that every DPS character in every game ever wants: attack, crit rate, crit damage, right? Crit damage is a little hard to get in this game, and the scaling in it is a little different than in other games. So the easiest way to gear your character, your Nemesis, for example, is just do as much attack and as much crit rate as you can. That will solve 99% of situations. There are some situations where crit damage will start to outperform, but like to plan your whole build around it is not worth it. So once again, very straightforward, nothing surprising there. Now the question you're going to see, and you've probably asked yourself, is what set do I farm? There are 3 sets that Nemesis can utilize pretty well. The short answer is, as I have here, just use Face Strike. Face Strike is like a catch-all, and it'll make your life so much simpler. The long answer to that is that you can use Face Strike. You can use, I think it's called Ballistic Boost. Yes, ballistic boost. You can use ballistic boost for 20% physical damage, or you can use these. I don't know what the set's called, but for 20% corrosive damage. The reason you can use those other two sets is ballistic boost. All her follow-up attacks, which essentially you get 2 of a turn if there's enough targets, those are all physical damage. So if we come back to her skill set here, follow-up attacks, physical damage. Both her skills, Penetrating Casket and Enlightened Star, physical damage. So you're just essentially adding 20% to these numbers. Only her alt is not physical. This one is corrosive. This is where it gets a little weird, right? I was saying you could also use the corrosive set on her. You will be able to spam this ability, as we will get into when we take like the live demonstration. You'll be almost able to spam this ability without ever running out of confectants. So it essentially would equate to like a pure 20% damage increase on her. But the issue is with farming both of those other sets. You can do it if you're in like the luxury phase, or you're a whale and you just don't care and you just want, you know, just a solid amount of damage. The issue is Phase Strike is just more efficient overall, because as I just pointed out here, her alt is corrosive damage, but her other sources of damage are physical. She has this weird split profile of like, depending on, you know, how many times you use her alt, like you have a split profile, like half your damage is physical, half your damage is corrosive. It doesn't exactly come out to 50-50, but the issue is if you're using the physical set, you're not getting extra damage on her alt, and if you're using her corrosive set, you're not getting damage on her follow-ups and physical attacks. Phase Strike kind of solves that, in that it just applies 15% to all of her attacks, whether it's the follow-up attacks, whether it's her alt. The caveat to Phase Strike is that you need to have someone who can apply a phase element debuff. Nemesis cannot do it. None of her abilities do it. So that means you're relying on another character. Now, if you have Suomi, super easy, right? She just throws avalanche stacks out there. If you have Ksenia, another one, just easily can alt and just throw fire debuffs on people. A whole ton of characters have ways to apply phase debuffs, so it's not really hard to apply phase debuffs. It's just like something you have to think about. It's not automatic. The reason the short answer to that question is just farm Phase Strike is because of efficiency. Phase Strike, and now that we know the next character is going to be Macchiato, Phase Strike can be used on Nemesis and Macchiato. Phase Strike could be used on Mosin Nagant. Phase Strike could be used on another sniper that they release in the future that, I don't know, is, I don't know, fire or something like that. As long as you have a way to apply the debuff, which once again, most teams, there's multiple ways to apply it. So you're going to get a flat 15% damage, which, especially on characters with split damage profiles, will be really good. Macchiato is another one. She's, I believe, ice is her element. So she's not a pure ice damage dealer, but like half of her damage is ice and the other half is physical, or, you know, not exactly half, but essentially this allows you to be like a one-size-fit-all, works on everything. And the other half of that is when you're farming rifle attachments from the supply mission here, targeted study. You're also farming blade attachments, which right now there's only 2 characters that utilize it, Krolik and Ulrid. But once again, if you get Phase Strike on those, they're kind of a generic, anybody can use them. So from an efficiency standpoint, it's just like, it's the easy answer. It's semi-future proof. It works with a lot of characters and a lot of builds, and it's just like the all-rounder choice. If you want to go super ham and you want to farm a specific set just for Nemesis, then yeah, the physical and the corrosive sets work really well. That was the long explanation of the sets and the damage. So let's hop in and let's take some examples here. Let's go to camping. So my Nemesis is a little strong, so it's going to be kind of hard to show some of this because she's probably just going to kill all the enemies in one hit. Let's replace Kulfing because I need someone who does not follow up. No follow up, no follow up. Good. Okay, cool. So there's a couple things we want to talk about first. So at the beginning of the turn, like I said, if you had a keen eye there, you would have seen that there was two little like sniper targets that got put above these two, and you'll see the debuff here. This is the Prophecy of Morning. So she marked these two closest targets. You can, when you hover over them and you go to attack, you'll see the red line showing that, and you'll see the word action support here. This shows that Nemesis is going to do her follow-up attack on this target. That's how you know you're going to trigger her ability. If there was like something blocking line of sight here, for example, you wouldn't see that. Now, by default, she has a 9-tile range. So from where she's at right now, she can't hit this guy right here. Now, if we trigger her follow-up, bunch of stuff happened there all at once. You see that she got a billion buffs. So because she killed a target with Prophecy of Morning on it, she got attack up, she got damage up, she got insight, and she got an additional Confectance point. So now right off the bat, the very beginning of the battle, she's now got a bunch of attack buffs on herself, like damage buffs, and she's maxed out her Confectance. In addition, now she has insight. Oops, sorry, I gotta end my turn. I forgot Tolo does a double turn. Now, that ult that couldn't hit before, now all of a sudden can. So that's a way she can like outrange. Like for example, this guy can't. I mean, I know he's in passive mode right now. They're just like alert, but like this enemy, how far does he shoot? 8 tiles. So he would have to move up in order to attack Nemesis, which, like I said, you can hit him with defense down because these guys use these. Yeah, snipers tend to have low mobility. Or, I'm sorry, not defense down, movement down. And you can just essentially outrange a lot of enemies in the game. So now she's got insight, she's got all the attack buffs, she targets anybody. So let's talk about the passive on her weapon, the trait. So I think if we come to here, yeah, this is showing it right. So the ignores defense. So if we were to target this guy here with this, you'll see that it's gonna chunk him, but it's not gonna kill him, right? It's gonna go down to 4 stability, but he's still gonna get, if you look underneath him here, you'll see 60% damage reduction from stability, 20% damage reduction from cover, and he'll drop to 4 stability after the attack. Now Nemesis has 2 she has insight right now, so she is actually ignoring 2. She's actually ignoring 2 stability points. So if we were to use a different ability, this one does a little more stability damage. So by base, this one right here says 3 stability. And since we're not matching any of the types on the enemy, it's only going to do 3. That's why it's going from 7 to 4. Now, when we switch to Stellar Pursuit here, this is doing corrosion damage. Something interesting happens here. It says exploited at the top. This lets you know that you have matched an enemy's weakness. This means you're going to do an additional 2 stability points of damage. So this one's base stability damage is 4. It's going to do 2 additional because we've exploited the target's weakness. That's going to do 6 stability damage. Now, that is not enough to break his stability. So he should be getting 60% damage reduction from stability. But because of the trait on the weapon, he does not. He's going to go down to 1 stability, but he's still going to die. And this is all reflected like in like I said, this wonderful little preview thing here. Like you'll see at the bottom here, he's still getting the 20% damage reduction from cover, but he is not getting the 60% damage reduction from stability. So like I said, that's a big increase in damage, right? Like these abilities will only do like 1/3 of his life, and this one will just straight up kill him. So that's something to keep in mind. But once again, you're not doing extra stability damage from the trait. Right now, the reason it's doing 2 extra is from the phase weakness effect. And if, for example, he was weak to... Are any of these guys weak to both? No. If he was weak to both heavy weapons, like these guys here, see? Exploited as well. It's this first one here, heavy weapons. If you were weak to both heavy weapons and corrosive, you would do an extra 2 on top of that. So you do 4 extra points. So it would be a total of 8 stability damage. In addition to that, There's one more thing we wanted to talk about real quick. That's a good example of like the range increase from insight and then the stability breaking or ignoring aspect of the weapon. Both sniper rifles in the game do that currently. Oh, so she has insight, and we're going to talk about her fixed key real quick. We'll show you this in example. I'm sorry, not fixed key, the common key, Blessing of the Morning Star here. So let's say I wanted to get around to flank these guys. Right, like this is not a good position to stand because I have no cover from this direction. But since I'm under the effects of insight right now, if I kill any target, so let's pick that guy that was totally vulnerable because of the phase exploit. Yeah, they're alerted. I'm like, oh no, someone's in here. You get to go again because she was under the effects of insight. And as this ability says, when you kill a target, it doesn't have to be one that's marked by Prophecy of Morning, just as long as you kill a target under the effects of insight, you get to move again. So now she can come over here. And so now she's in a safe spot. Now she's in cover from this part of the room. So let's rewind real quick. Also, in case, a little fun little tidbit about rewinding here. You can't rewind to like save scum crits. Crits are kind of, quote, locked in at the beginning of a turn. So if I was to redo this turn a million times, I would never crit somebody that I didn't already crit. Just a fun little tidbit there. So essentially, Nemesis wants to get in a position where she can just start marking people with exploit stacks. And like normal usage, you would trying to move her up into a spot like this where she's like in the range. The only exception on her passive is they have to be within does it show here? Yeah, nine tiles. So you can't just keep her way far in the back the whole time. She does need to be kind of close. So that's why I was saying positioning is kind of like the hardest part about using this character. Move her up here. You're now going to be throwing out Prophecy of Morning stacks every turn. So we're just going to fast forward this turn. We're just going to delete this guy. We're not. We're going to actually trigger. I'm not going to do this whole mission. But I'm just going to show you some quick examples here. These two pair well together on the first turn especially because, once again, Tolo gets a double turn, so she could actually trigger both of these by herself. This is probably going to be like way overkill. Probably won't even live for the follow-up, but... Oops. It's not that important. Nemesis is actually totally kept. So essentially what you want to do is have other people trigger the Prophecy of Mornings, and then Nemesis would come up and kill a third guy. She's going to kill him now because now she's got all the attack buffs. And she would get to move 3. Doesn't matter. I'll just keep her here. And we're just going to end the turn real quick just so I can show you. Let's speed this up. Can I... Here we go. So she, once again, two closest targets. These two guys are going to get Prophecy of Morning. If we were to skip this turn completely... We're slow down here. Prophecy of Morning's already on these front 2. So it will go on another 2. Will not repeat the same targets. So there we go. Now we have 4 Prophecy of Morning targets on the field. So once again, we're going to kind of just go ham on this turn just to illustrate a point. I don't know. Let's just blow this guy up in the back. So she's totally out of confectants at this point. I'm gonna have to speed this up. This was cool for cinematic reasons, but now if we have the team just come up, they'll just shoot whatever. Like I said, these enemies are pretty weak, especially when you have a jacked up Nemesis like the one I have. Can we do that? Doesn't really matter. She's back to full convectance already, just like that. Like I said, she ulted, was it 0? She got one back, she killed a target. Or I lied. I'm sorry. She didn't get one back when she killed the target because the target has a Prophecy of Morning on them. But by doing these follow-up attacks, she did kill one with the follow-up attack. That gave her an extra one. So, like I said, you're just going to be able to spam your ult. And we'll do a boss example in a second. She's just going to spam. One thing I want to point out, once again, AoE attacks do not trigger it. So you see this guy on the right here. He has Prophecy of Morning, but AoE attacks like Krolik's Crushing Revolution here, this is, and you can see it even says in the skill description, dealing melee physical AoE damage. This will not trigger her ability. So we'll go and watch and be like, oh no, we messed up. And then we'll rewind. You can trigger it with Krolik's single target abilities though. Or single target, I'm sorry, that one's gonna just absolutely delete him. So we'll just do a normal basic attack. There we go, same thing. It'll do a teeny bit of stability damage, but she'll do a follow-up, ignore a bunch of stability and kill him. There we go. So that's pretty much all I want to show from there. So that's how it is for most battles. You kind of just walk her up in the middle. You'll use her second ability to initiate the fight to get a bunch of confectants. You'll be maxed right away because of it. And then from there on out, you're essentially just going to be spamming. So we'll do a boss fight now. Boss fights, you change what you do slightly. Normally, in a normal turn, what you'd want to do is you would want to trigger a follow-up attack first so that she gets all the buffs, insight, attack up, and damage up if she kills the target. And then you'd want to attack with her. But in a boss fight, it's going to be slightly different because you're going to... The first turn here will have extra targets, but every turn after the first turn, we're going to be kind of like lacking targets. So let's... Yep, that should be fine. Okay, so once again, we'll just come to here. We'll shoot this guy. This will trigger a follow-up just so she can get her buffs up. So now she's got insight. So we could stand wherever we wanted, to be honest, right? Like if we really wanted to go far back. If we kill this guy, remember, because she's under insight, she's going to be able to move 3 tiles again. She didn't even... We'll just slow this guy real quick. I'm just trying to delete the small enemies so that I can show you what to do in a situation where there's only one target. We can just kind of ignore the boss mechanics for this. She's not really going to do much. So this is going to be a common situation where you only have one target in the field. Now, if the boss summoned ads, it'd be great because you want ads to fuel Nemesis to get more confectance points. Because every time she does a follow-up attack, she's going to get 2 confectants. If she kills it, she gets another one. With only one target, you're only getting one follow-up a turn, so that is me. And you're probably not going to kill it because it's a boss. So you're only going to get 2 confectance points a turn. So you're going to be at a net deficit if you keep spamming your ult. But even so, usually when it comes to a boss like this, you want to have Nemesis act first, use her ult. This will do 2 things. One, it'll apply the defense down so that all your subsequent attacks from the rest of your team are going to get that small damage boost, but like I said, about 8%. In addition to that, if she was at full confectance, she's not right now, but if she was at full confectance, it would lower her confectance, so that means when your allies trigger her follow-up, she doesn't overcap on it. There's one situation that we are in right now that I want to draw attention to that you wouldn't do that, and that is if the boss has a passive, which a lot of the bosses do, where if the target is at 0 stability, or above 0 stability, so they're not stability broken, essentially, they have an 80% damage reduction. So while normally you'd want to come here, dump your confectants so that you don't overcap, also put the debuffs on the target, this is not going to break her stability, and you're going to do teeny tiny baby damage. So in this situation, you actually want, let's just have you come back here, just somebody trigger a follow-up attack. Okay, and at this point, when you go to attack, the boss will be stability broken. And this is a special situation, which I will give you a little bonus tip. So if you break stability that matches their weakness, so if they're exploited and this is what you use to break their stability, they suffer, I believe the game calls it a stability collapse, which means the 60%, or in this case, from the boss, the 80% from this ability, that damage reduction does not apply. Normally, let's see, do I have someone heavy, medium? Okay, well, I can't show you. If I had another light attack user, I could, but normally, if, let's say, the boss wasn't weak to Nemesis ability here, and I wasn't exploiting, it would apply the 60% damage reduction for the attack, then the stability would break because of the attack, and then it would go away. In a stability collapse, it is ordered differently. In a stability collapse, they lose the 60% damage reduction before the damage is calculated. So that's why you're seeing such a huge difference here in the damage that's showing to the boss. So we'll do that. Boom, big damage, boss's stability broken. I don't know, we'll just walk over here. We already triggered the follow-up, so we're not going to trigger anymore because there's only one prophecy mark per turn, per target. And I don't know, we'll just, sure, walk over here. We're just trying to kind of show you in the what you do now after the boss. So let's say they didn't. Some bosses don't have any stability damage reduction. For example, I don't think Ironside does. I think he's just always, even though he has stability, it doesn't reduce the damage he takes. It just is there as a different mechanic. You have to break it so that, you know, I don't know, whatever, he doesn't spam one of his moves. So now in a situation like this, once again, you're going to order your attacks differently. So for bosses and stuff, you want to have Nemesis act first. This will dump her confectance, so she'll go to 0, but she'll apply the damage. Let me slow it down here. You'll see it apply the damage or the defense down first. Well, Philfane's gonna do a follow-up. Oh, the game's making a liar out of me. She did not get a prophecy stack for some reason, right? Oh, because it went on these guys. Well, bad example, but that does work in our favor because that means now we can shoot them. Trigger the follow-up. Okay, or they'll just die. Bad example again. But, you know, if they didn't die from that attack, Nemesis could have done a follow-up, got a bunch of buffs and some confectants, and then just laid into the boss. So we'll see if we can do it again next turn. Speed up. Yeah, I know. You probably will die. Who cares? Yeah, mechanics. Okay, well, my example is being thrown in the garbage yet again because the boss got the defense back. But essentially, let's pretend that that didn't happen. Once again, you would have enough to alt. You'd alt, apply the defense down, then do your other characters. She'd get most of her confectants back. So in a situation where this is not a butchered example like the one I'm showing, you would be at, like, let's say your max confectants because you killed the ads at the beginning of the match. You'll be at 6 confectants. The following turn, you'll use 3. Then you'll gain 2, so now you'll be at 5. Following turn, you'll alt again. Use 3, gain 2. Now you're at 4. Use 3, gain 2. Now you're at 3. Use 3, gain 2. Now finally, at that point, you would not be able to alt the following turn. But that's what I mean. Like, that's like 6 turns in, assuming no other ads spawn. There's no other way to trigger Prophecy of Mornings. And at that point, to be honest, most of the bosses are going to be dead if you're focusing them with damage, unless they have just huge HP pools. They'll probably be dead. So that's kind of like a real world example. I'm going to talk about 1 or 2 other random things that I cropped up. The reason I was saying that the crit damage ratio in this game is not the same as other games is if you look here, you see 120%. That is multiplying the final damage number. So if you're hitting the boss for 100 damage and you crit them, you're going to hit them for 120 damage, not 220 damage. So you start off with kind of a crappy... A lot of games, they start with you either 50% extra crit damage or sometimes even 100% extra crit damage so that, you know, crits are, quote, double damage. Not so in this game. So keep in mind that while you build crit, because it is a damage increase, it's not as much as in other games. In addition to that, the weapon stats or attachments, let's see, I think I have one that's crit and crit somewhere. I know something's got crit damage on it. Here, this. You'll see in a lot of other games, crit damage, usually you get twice as much of it because mathematically, if you were to plot the big chart, if you do caveman big number thing, you'll see that usually you want a crit ratio of 1 to 2. So if you have 50% crit, you want 100% crit damage, and that will give you the most value. This game doesn't really abide by that rule. You get just as much crit rate as crit damage, so you're essentially picking between 60%, you know, if you were to do this on all your attachments, you're picking between 60% crit rate or 60% crit damage, when in a lot of other games it would be 60% crit rate or 120% crit damage. So I'll save you guys the big long explanation. I might do a separate video on the crit rates in this game, but long story short, it's not something you have to just go all in on. To be honest, you probably just want to focus on crit rate specifically so that you just get that 20% damage bonus more often. I don't believe there's any gear, items, or characters right now in the game that care about critting, like as part of their skill. Like, you know, if you crit the target, XYZ happens. I don't believe that's in the game, but I don't hold me to that. So that was the really long explanation for Nemesis. Gosh, I don't even know how long that was. Probably like 30 minutes or more. We're gonna do the quick guide now. We're just kind of recap it for people who are gonna skip to this part of the video. So the Nemesis quick guide. Essentially, her entire kit revolves around Prophecy of Morning. At the beginning of the turn, she's going to put 2 of these on the closest targets. They can be out of line of sight. It won't duplicate on the same target. So she's just going to throw these out on the field. And if you hit them with a teammate that has a single target ability, AoE does not work, she'll do a follow-up attack and get 2 Confectance points and an insight buff. So this is her main thing. You want to kind of utilize these as much as possible. Her first skill is called Enlightening Star here. This one, once again, all you need to remember with this one is you want to be in cover when you use it, because when you're in cover, you don't have to have cover from the defender or from the person you're attacking. You just need to be touching a piece of cover. So like I said, you can walk up to cover, shoot someone behind you, and you'll still get this bonus. You get a damage bonus and Confectance. So essentially, you're going to use this at the beginning of battle when you're trying to get into position. You'll move up into cover into position, use this, and now you're going to be set with Confectance for pretty much the rest of the fight. Penetrating Casket here, defense down, don't really care about this. This is kind of like I have nothing else to use, or all my other abilities are on cooldown for some reason. That's when you'd use this ability. You can kind of ignore it. You don't really care about the defense down because you're going to get to apply that from one of your fixed keys. Another important thing to remember on this, it does not translate to a 30% damage increase. I cannot stress that enough. This essentially comes out to about, give or take, 8%. So then that brings us to her alt. Her alt costs 3 Confectance, and it just does a lot of damage to her target. Very straightforward. It is corrosive damage, though, so you should keep that in mind for gearing out sets and for other stuff. But essentially how you use the character is, first turn, walk up into cover, use Enlightening Star on something to get a bunch of Confectance and also do a good chunk of damage. Have your teammates attack the targets that got Prophecy of Morning, which will trigger a lot of follow-up attacks from Nemesis and gain her even more Confectance and a lot of buffs, hopefully in a second. And then you're just going to alt spam. It's that easy. We'll show you a quick example at the end here. For fortifications, you can kind of ignore all these segments. They're not really important. The only one to keep in mind is segment 1. This essentially lets Prophecy of Morning last 2 turns instead of 1. And what that essentially does is allow you to have 4 of them floating around if you can't like utilize them. Like let's say she puts 2 of them out and they're like an enemy that's out of line of sight. You can like wait a turn before you get in line of sight of that target and attack it. So this is the only one that changes how she plays. More damage, Confectance, but once again, you're probably never going to use this ability. More damage, more damage, more damage on her alt. Essentially, you're getting a bunch of crit for free, which equates to more damage. Neural Helix, main line here. All damage stats. Get them. They're good. They're important. They give her a passive amount of stats as well when you get all the nodes. Every character should get this if you have the resources to do it. You get to pick 3 fixed keys and 3 common keys. The 3 fixed keys you want to pick for her are, well, we'll just show them on here. I won't go through all of them all. This is the short guide. You're going to want to use Potent Curse. This is going to mean that whenever you attack a target with Prophecy of Morning, aka bosses, it will hit them with that defense down. This is why you probably never use her second skill or her third ability, however you want to classify it. Second one you want to use is Fated Calamity. This one just gives her more Confectance when she kills targets. Essentially, in a boss fight where the boss is summoning adds, this is going to give you tons of free buffs and free Confectance. So, and then once again, if she kills a target, Prophecy of Morning, she's going to get attack up and damage up. So essentially what this all equates to is that if you kill a target with Prophecy of Morning, aka like a small add, you're getting a bunch of benefits. Confectance, a bunch of attack and damage, and you'll even apply a damage down or a defense down to that target, which will, once again, equate to more damage. The rest of these keys usually are just stat keys. I'm not going to go into a ton of options. You can use keys from other characters if they have good stats. Her specific one is good for her as well. If she has done a follow-up attack that turn already, when she takes her action and kills somebody, doesn't have to have Prophecy of Morning, as long as she kills anything, she gets to move 3 extra tiles. So you can kind of slingshot yourself up the battlefield if you plan this right. And that's really important for her because that's her biggest weakness by far, is her incredibly slow 4 mobility. That covers all of the basics of her weapon. Sniper rifle, doesn't matter which sniper rifle you use, they both work pretty well. The 50 cal is a little more tailored to her because it's like less particular about needing a phase debuff, but all you need to worry about is the stability ignoring aspect, and both the sniper rifles have this. In the future, units like Macchiato will have another sniper rifle. I don't think hers is a very good fit for Nemesis. I'd have to double check that though. Pretty sure you can just ignore it. So essentially these sniper abilities just equate to more damage. Gearing, oops, went back too far. Gearing characters, short answer. The stats you want to just get as much as possible. Attack/attack boost, whatever you can get, and then crit rate. And then crit damage is a bonus stat if you can acquire that as well. What set do you want? Easy answer, Phase Strike. Other possible answers include Ballistic Boost for 20% physical damage, which will apply to her skill 1, 2, and all of her follow-ups. The corrosive damage one is okay for her because she spams her ult a lot, so you're going to get a lot of value out of it, but the problem is you can't use it on anybody else, right? There's no other snipers that deal corrosive damage, so it's kind of like you're wasting all those attachments. You'll never get to use them. Phase Strike can be used on other snipers. It can be used on future snipers that will be coming out. Like I said, Macchiato does ice damage, so you could just transplant all these attachments that you farmed over to her gear when you're ready. And the other reason is that the 15% increased damage affects all her damage types, and she has a split damage profile. A lot of it comes from corrosive, but a lot of her damage also comes from follow-up attacks and her second skill here. So you're going to get the most value out of Phase Strike for her. And like I said, it's quote, future-proof. The one caveat I should really point out is that you need someone who can apply phase element debuffs. If you have Sumi, you're golden. She just throws avalanche stacks everywhere. There's a lot of other characters that do it. I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list. Mosin here does it with her paralysis. Krolik does it with her passive embers. You know, there's just so many. I mean, Nagant does it with acid corrosion here. So it's like there's lots of options to apply them. There's not hard. Even Cheetah, free-to-play unit that you get for just her playing the game. Is it Fireworks Festival? Yeah, Fireworks Festival. Overheat. This is a burn debuff. This counts. So you have tons of options. So just keep that in mind, though. You do need to actually apply the debuff. So, like I said, but it's really good on bosses because the split damage profile will be important. Let's. Oops, I'm sorry. I kind of messed up the windowed mode there. Graphics. Let's go. There we go. I'm just gonna do a super quick explanation. I go over this in much more detail in the long version of the guide, but for the short version of the guide, we're just gonna do this fight again real quick. When there adds to target, for example here, she put Prophecy of Morning on this guy and the boss. Have somebody, doesn't matter who, trigger the Prophecy of Morning follow-up attack. This will give her buffs and confectants. Do that to clear all the adds. Just get into the next turn. So you do that. So trigger all the Prophecy of Morning attacks so that you can get a bunch of free confectants. So here we're going to trigger another one. I said if you're lucky and you kill a target, you're not going to kill bosses, but like if this was a normal mission, there was tons of little guys around, you'd be killing them left and right with that, so you'd get a bunch of buffs. But you see now her confectance is pretty high. And then, I don't know, just... yeah, whatever. Don't matter. So for just normal, everyday missions, just like I said, have your supports trigger the follow-up attacks to get a bunch of free damage that way, and then you can have her attack an unmarked target, like I did over here for this guy. That way you can essentially get 3 attacks out of Nemesis a turn. When you're fighting bosses like this, you want to alt first, assuming they're in range to get this Prophecy of Morning, which is very important. You see the boss here has Prophecy of Morning. Alt first to A, dump your confectants so you don't overcap, and B, apply the defense down. And I know she's going to stand there or whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you would attack with the rest of your team. This will trigger her follow-up attack, get her confectants again, and it said you just rinse and repeat that until the boss dies. One caveat to that, make sure that they don't have an ability like this where they will ignore a lot of the damage. So for example, if I had not broken her attack with that alt, then she would have ignored 80% of the damage. So in that situation where we have to break the boss first, then just keep attacking her with other units until the boss is stability broken, then Nemesis. And then, yeah, like I said, from there on out, it's just alt at the beginning of the turn. That will use up 3 confectants. Use one of your supports to attack the boss again. That'll refund you 2 confectants, and you can do that for like 5 turns in a row. So, and the boss will probably be dead, and you'll just do a ton of damage. So that's the short guide. Thanks for listening. Hopefully this helps some people. I know I didn't get into like team building because, to be honest, Nemesis is really comfy. She can kind of fit in like any team. So that's the guide on her. I'm probably going to do some other guides in the future, so stay tuned. If you guys have any questions or anything, go ahead. You can leave them in the comments or whatever. And one final thing, if you want to test out the power, this is my UID, so feel free to friend me. I will have my Nemesis on loan and a couple other units. So, like I said, hit me up in game, and I will catch you guys in the next guide. Alrighty, so that was the Nemesis guide for today's stream. We're going to cut that out of the video, and I'm probably going to post that as a separate video. So, wow, I hope I covered everything, and I hope that doesn't turn into a 50-minute video, although I have a feeling it will. But that's okay. Like I said, people who want to watch 50 minutes get every little possible nugget of wisdom out of that, hopefully they can. Everybody else can just skip to the skip to the short version. Hopefully that was a short and concise version. Alrighty, so I'm gonna dump this last little bit of stamina here. Or intel, I'm sorry. I've upset people. Ooh, I unlocked the new difficulties. Alright, let's do one. Let's do one. I'll put my money where my mouth is. We'll see if I know how to play this game as well as I pretend to play this game. We do want Xiaomi, Groza. Ooh, do we go the double condom team with the double support? Sumi and Kulfane. I will never die with this team comp, but it will take a while to kill stuff. Yeah, let's do it. I'll just experiment. Like I said, really, this is a good team to actually show this because if you've watched my other live streams, I've been a kind of a big adamant fan of like, if you don't know what you're doing in the game and you just kind of like you're new to this style of game, just use the Groza team, the 4 stars that you get. And then whenever you get a cool character, like a 5-star, just sub them in for Krolik. It's easy. So I'm gonna do that here. So once again, I'm gonna utilize my own advice. 2 targets here. Well, first we're gonna, so Xiaomi's gonna attack, or I'm sorry, gonna soak the boss's attack here. So we're gonna have her, yeah, open up with her ult. This will put a shield on everybody. Also do some damage to these toads. Now we're gonna have Nemesis. Actually, we're gonna have Groza come here. So the way this boss works is he throws, you can always check at the top. For those who didn't know, you can see what the boss is gonna do. Throws some burn damage at the furthest target, doesn't really do much. And then his big thing is he's gonna do a big AoE cone and put a debuff on a bunch of people. But he always walks towards the closest person to do it. So right now I'm gonna have that try and be Somi. So Groza's gonna come here. She's going to trigger this double follow-up attack, which is overkill, but boom. So Nemesis got a kill. You saw a billion buffs come up over her head, so now we're ready to rock and roll. Can we one-shot him? Yes, we can. That might be overkill. We'll do it for fun. Oh, that's right. She gets to move again because I killed the target. Let's have her come around because maybe I'll try and get her in this position next turn. Kulfane can just hang out. Yeah, just attack this guy. These Thodes don't move, by the way, so he's just gonna stand next to Groza and spit at her. Yep, so this guy comes over, does the cone attack. Oh, he picked Sumi for whatever reason. I don't know why he didn't attack the guy next to him that has no defense reduction. So once again, I'm gonna listen to my own advice and ult the boss first. I would like to get a little closer because I want to hit this Thode, but I guess I can't. So Dems. Oh, wait. I lied. I can, which means our follow-up should be able to hit him. So we're just gonna ult the boss like I said. You'll see how much this chunks them for. And hopefully Kulfane, no, she can't. Okay, I thought she was going to be enraged to follow up, but that's okay. So Groza is going to come here. I don't know. Sure. Nah, whatever. Go ahead, though. Just keep on living your best life. We'll get to you later. Because the boss is, once again, he's going to pick the nearest target, do a bunch of burn, leave a bunch of lava on the ground, too. And then he's going to go Frenzy, which Frenzy, I think, converts all the damage people do to him to, what's it do? Yeah, it turns it into burn damage, so, and he's naturally immune to burn damage. Who would have guessed, right? So you just have to, like, be outside of his range. So we'll walk over here. Oops, one too far. There we go, just keep putting damage on him. Nobody took any damage, so there's no point in healing, and he's already stability broken, so you don't need, like, the extra stability break from the water element, so we're just gonna attack like normal. Oh no, fire. So if Groza was to attack, yeah, so this is technically getting converted to fire damage, which he'll be completely immune to. The only reason his health bar is moving at all is because all these other attacks are not close enough, so they'll be their normal damage type, so. She would actually, I think, have to stand here to be far enough away. Oh, I lied. I think it's because he has the passive. Yep. He has the passive, so we have to break his stability first. So once again, normally, like I said in the guide, you would want to alt first to put the defense down buff. Nope, not in this situation. You don't. You want to have somebody else go first to crack his stability. Let's have Coal Fame. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so Nemesis will have to move over to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, okay, so if we do Coal Fame here, she'll be the closest, so she'll soak the next attack. Throw a little healing on Kroza, but we can come here most importantly. And we'll also now be in range to put Prophecy of Morning on this guy next turn. So, but now you'll see, woo, that's a big difference from a moment ago. If I crit, he probably just dies. Yep, woo, 5,000, big number. Oh, that's right, I don't even need to kill the Thode. Ooh, ooh, yeah, that's what you like to see. This is a quote god piece right here. Attack boost, crit rate, and crit damage. The only thing that could have been better on this is that you see these little bars here. If they were at the line here, that would be quote max. But this is 4 useful stats, 4 all damage stats. This is still a very juicy piece. You love to see it. Ooh, this one's close too. Attack, health, crit rate. Oh man, and crit rate and crit. Oof. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Oh, and we got some bonuses. Yeah, nothing special there. Another really good one. But unfortunately, these are for shotguns, and I'm not using shotguns right now. Yep, and these are whatever. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's do this one real quick. This will be the last one for the stream because I'm going to be out of intel at this point. But we'll just breeze through this as well. Oh, that's sad. Nemesis won't be able to make it up there this turn, so that's fine. Oh, man, this is a long stream today. That's good. So we'll have Xiaomi walk up. Darcher's going to try, and she's going to try and use her first ability here if there's a target in range. So she's going to walk, whatever, 6, I think it's 6 tiles. And then she's going to try and poke someone to put a mark on them. And I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so she would be able to hit Somi here. So we'll have her be up front. Mostly the reason you run Sumi up first is because now she's in range of like all these units, so that anytime you attack one of them, now she's going to be doing action supports. So let's have Nemesis walk up to... This is not a great idea to stand out in the open like this. Can I get around this guy's cover? No. It's usually not a good idea to stand out in the open. I know this is a revolutionary idea, but I have a feeling these guys are both going to die here in a second. So this is a good example. I'm not going to be touching cover, so this won't give me the extra confectants. This is like mega overkill for this dude, so this is like one of the few situations you would use her penetrating casket ability. This should crack him out of cover. Yep. Yeah, whatever. He won't die. I think maybe Colfane can finish him off. 4 crit? Yep. It's like I could sense the crit coming, and then we'll just have her run up here. And she just, I don't know, just shoot him. This guy over here on the right is gonna take a turn. Just gonna walk up, poke Kolfang, walk away. Oh, of course you had to go to that side. This guy, what does he do? Just throw debuffs out? Yeah. He puts annoyances on you. So let's move. So once again, even though Darcher is out of line of sight from Nemesis, you can't target her right now. She did get the Prophecy of Morning. So if you walk up here, attack her. For huge damage, because I'm a little overgeared for this. Now when you attack with another unit, now she will do the support attack. So, just, we don't want Somi or, I mean, the boss is going to die, but you wouldn't want Somi or Kolfang to take you wouldn't want Kolfang to take another hit, because if you take 2 of these, you get feared. So, but we're going to put Somi right there. So we're just going to Unga Bunga the boss down real quick. Rosa, your turn too. Give her a little peek. The boss is going to do furthest and closest this time. Ooh, actually it's going to be furthest and then teleport to closest and AoE around. So this area around Xiaomi is going to be bad. In fact, Nemesis might be in a little spot, but once again, the boss is going to die so fast, it's not going to matter. So we'll just have Kolfang come here, because Groza's still further. So boss should shoot Groza, then teleport around Xiaomi, and then AoE. Yep, unfortunately she went to the spot I was hoping she wouldn't. But once again, like I said, I'm a little overgeared for this, so... Clap, clap, don't come back. And now you can hear your ears bleed from her screaming. Props to that voice actress. She is very in character. Nothing. Ooh, what's this? What's this? Submachine gun muzzle crit. Oh, it's actually okay for Somi. Okay. Well, thank you guys all for sticking around and coming. If you watch this in the future, like I said, you saw. I'll put my UID on here one more time if you want to friend me or something. Or so you can always ask questions or something in the comments. I do read the comments, even though there are 0 right now at the time of recording, because nobody watches my channel. But maybe one day when I'm like a big YouTube superstar like Mr. Beast and I got millions of views, I will make a promise to you now. I will come back in the future. We'll take a time machine and I will answer your question. So, but other than that, if you're watching this in the future, thanks for the views and have a good one. Like I said, hit me up in game if you want. And other than that, man, have a good one.